All right, Andreas Blomqvist, thanks very much for taking your time today. How you doing, man?
You bet. No problem. Doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So this is Ryan again. This is Ethereal Metal Webdesign. I just want to thank you for taking the time today. Um, so I wanted to start off, thanks to COVID, these last 2 years have been absolutely crazy, as you can imagine, right?
Right.
How have you and your family been holding up?
Well, for me personally, things have been very well. I was worried for my parents. They were kind of locked into their house. I went doing shopping for them, but I got my own business, so we went to the office as usual, and the kids were small enough so they didn't experience any school lockdown. So for me personally, I just feel bad for everybody who's been affected a lot worse than me. For me, I kind of, breezed through all of this, and also for the band, the timing was perfect. We were just getting into writing mode anyway. So
Sure, sure.
so yeah, I can't complain too much. I mean, it hit the world pretty bad, but me, thank God, I've been let off easily.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad to hear that. So during all the initial lockdowns, what did you do to keep yourself positive, and were you able to keep in constant contact with the band?
Yeah, again, man, Sweden kind of, uh, it took a little bit of a different approach. There weren't all that much lockdowns going on.
Right,
A
right.
lot of the bigger enterprises, restaurants and stuff like that, for sure, there was a big impact. But we actually, I mean, we went to rehearsal. We wrote the album in the rehearsal room anyway. We hugged less, but other than that, man, it was all good. I got off pretty easily. I haven't suffered that much. So, but I mean, for us, again, we kind of came off the last shows that we did in the U.S. for Tiara
Right, for TR.
in September, October-ish,
Okay.
2019. And that's when it hit, right? So we were going to go
Yeah, yeah.
into writing mode anyway. So we were kind of fortunate that way. We didn't really get hit by it that bad. The time of the whole pandemic was usually, I mean, was actually just used to make this album more or less. And now we're
Yeah, no,
done. And
that's
now they're
awesome.
lifting the restrictions, so we're good to go.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you. So speaking of, Seventh Wonder, obviously that's what we're here to talk about. I actually hadn't heard of Seventh Wonder until I accidentally fell into Alley Cat around 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Alley Cat was actually my first experience, and being
Uh-huh.
honest, it led me to listen to the entire album start to finish, and I couldn't stop listening to it, probably
Oh,
for like a week
cool.
straight. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Cool.
so I have to ask, this is what that album is what made me fall in love with the music
Mhm.
for Seventh Wonder in total. And I've read that Wise Man may actually kind of resemble like sort of a prequel to the events um, leading up to the story that's being told in The Great Escape. And
Yeah.
is that kind of true?
Yeah, sure, sure. Kind
Yeah.
of, kind of.
Cool.
It wasn't thought through, to be honest. It might was laid out there to begin with,
Sure.
but yeah, it ended up that way. So, um, I ended up writing a lot for that album. Usually, for all other albums, I usually write a little bit less than that. But I
Sure.
wrote a lot of the music for that album, so there's a lot of me in that one. And Wise Man was my song too. And but Tommy wrote the lyrics for that. Back up
Right.
until all the way up until Tiara, Tommy and I wrote lyrics, but we were like, you write this song and I'll write this song. So Tommy wrote the lyrics for that, and he kind of
Awesome.
went went on the path of us destroying the world or whatnot, from his perspective. And then
Right.
I wrote The Great Escape, which is based on a science fiction poem from 1956 from a Nobel
Right.
Prize laureate.
Yeah.
And that, I want to leave room for interpretation, and as did he. Like, but something at least was so messed up on Earth that we had to leave. Right? That's the whole
Right.
concept of the story. Which then, of course, then that can be the prequel of that might very well be the reason why they had to leave in The Great Escape. So there
Awesome.
is a connection there. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And in fact, I think the name of the story was Aniara, right?
correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. Has Harry Martinson has always been an influence for all of you, or
No, no, not at all. He's this was written, when
the
my
50s, I
mom was
think?
4 years old. Yeah,
Yeah,
56.
yeah.
So the thing that happened was that I wanted to write. I knew I had these things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do a concept album, so we did Mercy Falls,
Mercy
and then
Falls. Yeah.
yeah, and then I wanted to do a really long song that was also a dream of mine. And the band was like, yeah, okay, sure, but you sort it out, you know. So I was, yeah, I guess I was kind of on the lookout for something to work with, and I was visiting my parents. I went through my dad's bookshelf, and I was like, what's this? And I just picked out the book, and he had it, and I started looking, just browsing through it casually, and the way it was written, there's probably a nice word for that. I don't even know it in Swedish, but the prose or whatever it's called, the way it was written, the language was so
Sure.
colorful, so it mesmerizing. It just grabbed me totally and fully. So I took it home, I read it, and then I read it a second time, just focusing not on the story, but actually just the wording. And then I ordered it in English, and I read it a third time. And then I actually figured out, I mean, I had to write letters, there were no emails or anything, to the editor. And I got in touch with the daughter of Harry Martinson, because he killed himself with
Oh, yeah.
at a
Yeah.
mental hospital or something like that. But I got a hold of his daughter, I'm sorry. And I sent her some of our tracks, and, it was a regular letter. So I had to write a YouTube link, with letters.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Pen, paper, send it to her and say, hey, this is us. I really love this book. I want to write something about it. Because I needed her approval, because we wanted to use some quotes, direct quotes from the book. Yeah. And she wrote, oh, sounds very good. Go ahead.
Oh, that's awesome.
Her approval. So that's a pretty cool story.
No, that is really cool. Thanks for sharing that. So going back, so The Great Escape really is kind of composed of like 13 acts, if you will. And I have to say, it's an absolute epic masterpiece. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to that track every single time I listen to it. How much time went into the writing process behind that song?
It's the biggest thing that I ever wrote, for sure.
Sure.
I think, as I recall, I wrote it during my ex-wife's pregnancy with our first child. So I probably I don't know how long I spent, man.
Wow. No, that's crazy though. That's great. So going back just a little further with Mercy Falls, I know you talked about that earlier. I absolutely loved the idea of a concept album. And this album, was a great listen, but on top of that, it tells a really deep, heartbreaking story of loss. What was the inspiration for this? Was this based on a real life event? Was this?
No, that's a crazy thing. I think we decided, like I said, I wanted to do a concept album, and already after Waiting in the Wings, it was kind of said, understood that me and Tommy write the lyrics. Sure. So I went over to Tommy, and I had a bottle of wine, and we just started talking, and then we kind of No, first, let's see here. The first ideas were actually in the rehearsal room. We were doing something. I can't even remember what. It was him and me. So, because I remember we jotted things down on like these little paper plates used, for eating, and they were just we didn't have any piece of paper. We got to write this down, man. So we had those stapled to the wall all over with kind of a storyline. Okay. And then I went over to his place with a bottle of wine, like I said, and we kind of hashed out the details. I don't know from where it came. We just started talking about. It started out with the more, the less tangible aspects.
Sure.
Like the duality of man, if you will, like how in every one of us, there's like this young child who's kind of, playful and and then there's this old, or maybe a little bit more resentful, bitter person. And every one of us has these two sides.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where we came up with these, like the duality of that was pictured, in the fictitious word of Mercy Falls by a little boy and an old grumpy woman. That were kind of the,
sure.
the opposites, if you will, as clear of a dichotomization as you could possibly conceive. And that's where we kind of started. And then,
awesome.
Then the whole story around it kind of just just fell out.
It fell into place. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So fast forwarding a little bit to Tiara, which again, I think that was the first album that Stefan Norgren was a part of the full writing process as well, correct?
Right. I mean, he played on the live album that we did. So he was part of writing we did two studio tracks for the live one called Inner Enemy and The Promise.
Yep.
And actually those were intended to be, you put them side to side, they make sense, but you were supposed to go like this and put all of Tiara in between, and that was supposed to make sense too.
Right.
And it kind of sort of does, but we had some grand idea there that fell apart. But yeah, So Stefan was part of the writing and recording for Tiara. That was his first studio album with us. Correct.
Okay. No, that's cool. And I have to say, every single album from the beginning all the way up through, I actually just finished listening to the Testament the second time now. And what I've always enjoyed about progressive metal is the use of time signatures. I'm sure that's something that comes up often with you guys, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
But I have to say, I really feel like Seventh Wonder does an absolutely amazing job at blending these time signatures together. Sometimes you might listen to something and it sounds like it's kind of being chopped up a little bit. With Seventh Wonder, I've always felt like it was a very, very smooth transition, whether you're going from, say, 4/4 into 6/8, or you're going into like some crazy time signature, 5/4 maybe. And it's always been like a really, really smooth transition. I think that's really cool. How do you use that live? Like, does that become more of a challenge for you live? Is it just as smooth for you live?
Not really. It's rather some other things that can be, for me personally, usually what gets me live is if you want to write something, it's in F and the bass, it's very stretchy and it's physically
like this
kills your lower forearms. That's what kills me live. But I appreciate you saying that, though. That's something that we kind of pride ourselves in, you know.
For sure.
I think, and I when doing interviews for like bass player magazines and stuff like that, you get asked those questions a lot, and also by aspiring musicians. And I think it's a matter of just, working with it, doing it. It's kind of like a practice thing where you got to make your brain realize that it's natural. Because you listen to these young guys and it will be like da 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 da. It's like, what the hell's going on? And of course you can always just cut the last eighth and you'll have an odd measure, but that's not really the musical way to do it. So I mean, I can end up writing a riff in 9/8, and I didn't think that it was in 9/8. I just wrote a riff. So I think, and then Tommy is also a master. He's like a wizard in cloaking these things. If I throw something at him like the verse of Destiny Calls, which I wrote in 13/8, and it's got 3 key changes in the verse.
Yes.
And he sings something that could have been like, I don't know, Barry Manilow or something over that. And then if we give him something in like easy 4/4, 2 chords, I think then he goes all bananas over it, like Alley Cat or Fall in Line. And he goes bop all over it. So he got to give credit where credit is due. He's the one that really also makes the most of whatever we throw at him. So that's live, awesome. That's not it. Okay, sure. It ends. There are places where you got to go like, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Most of the times it's just you learn it how it sounds, and then it gets musical, and then it sticks in your head. And it's
for sure.
Too.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think as a musician myself, I really appreciate like the time.
What do you play?
I play a little guitar. I play trumpet, and a little bit of keyboard too.
Trumpet. Good ears on you then, probably.
What's that?
You probably have good ears then.
A little bit, yeah. That's what I've been told anyway.
Trumpet is. I don't. I could never. I could never. Cool, man.
Yeah, no, that's great. But again, Tiara, absolutely amazing album. So I was going to ask about the writing process during COVID, but you already answered that earlier. So I think that's great that it didn't really affect you guys too much.
Yeah.
All right, so let's fast forward now. We're looking at the Testament, right? Yeah. It's coming out really soon, actually, just a few more weeks. And first, I absolutely love the artwork. I think it was Giannis Milkus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He killed it, man. He killed it. And he was such a joy to work with. Young guy, we didn't know anything that he'd done before. I think Stefan was the one who hooked him up, looked him up somehow. I can't even remember what the story was.
Sure.
And I just loved it. I mean, for me, 22 years down the line of the band, I think I'm the most happy with the mix and with the artwork ever in our career so far, which is super cool.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't expect that.
No, you don't always. I don't know if you're familiar with a band from Texas, actually, called Oceans of Slumber.
Maybe vaguely rings a bell, but not that I would know their work or anything.
Yeah, so he actually did their album art cover for their self-titled release. Yeah, so I thought that was really cool too.
It was nice too?
Yeah, Yeah, no, he does amazing work. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, what is the concept behind the artwork itself? Like, what was the whole
Mhm.
inspiration behind that?
Right. So when we wrote this, the music just, we just free reigns. We just, after coming off of a concept album, it's nice to just let every song speak for itself, write
For
whatever
sure.
happens. So that happens. But then as we were getting ready to write the lyrics, me and Tommy, we decided on a theme, a common theme for everything. So every song represents one human emotion.
Sure.
So there's a song anger, there's fear, there's
Yeah.
joy, despair, hope, and whatnot. So, and then given all of that, kind of trying to find a common way or kind of how to box that or pack it into something like a whole, I came up with the title, The Testament, because I was trying to think that as the whole, what I went on about with Mercy Falls, I think that, I mean,
Sure.
everybody has all of these emotions. You're not a human being if you don't. So it's all inside all of us. And at the end of the day, when we're pushing up daisies, what impressions we left with other people,
Yeah.
that's what we leave behind. That is our testament, if you
Of
will.
course. Of
So
course.
that's how that title came about. Plus, it's a pretty cool word, and I know Stefan loves the band, so I figured I get in that too.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that's the story behind that. And
Okay.
there's this man maybe writing his memoirs or whatever on the cover, kind of dropping notes as he goes. So that's kind of the story behind the artwork and everything.
That's awesome.
And also and that Johnny's was great that way, because so every time we threw a new emotion or a song with him, every page in the booklet is kind of containing some specific graphical elements
Oh, nice.
relating to that emotion. So yeah, look forward to
Okay.
sharing that with everybody.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest of the artwork. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Warriors, right? Warriors was the
Yeah.
first single that was released. Honestly, I was not expecting that absolutely heavy groove right off the bat. I thought that was awesome. It was a really interesting change from where Tiara started off, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely love that as an album opener. The Light, the second single, right? The video is simple, but I thought it was really, really effective. What was the inspiration behind the video, and who shot the video for you guys?
Yeah, it was his name is Ove Lingvall. He's actually the drummer for Nocturnal Rites.
Right. Okay.
British metal band. He also did the one for Tiara. Actually, the plan was to have a lot more elaborate
Yeah,
story.
you're right. Yeah.
Being Swedish isn't always that easy. Anyway, a lot more elaborate story with an amusement park and blah blah blah. So the feeling here is joy, right?
Of course.
That's what we're singing about. It's just happiness. So we wanted it to be like bright and contrast and kind of, and Tommy did a great job of conveying that vibe, I think. But then we scrapped all the other stuff because we always get slammed for being cheesy anyway. So ice cream and a Ferris wheel, we figured, man, they're gonna eat us up. So but it was also, yeah, I'm kidding a bit. It was also
yeah.
Like, man, this is not working out. I'd rather just scrap it and stay with a clean cut video of the band. And we were like, we're running out of time anyway. It's cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. No, but I think it works really well. It's really effective, I think.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I Carry the Blame, The Red River, and Mind Killer are three of my favorites from the album.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely awesome tracks. What can you say about these tracks to the general public who hasn't heard them yet? Kind of like a little teaser, if you will.
Right. So I Carry the Blame for me is the most personal track ever written.
For sure.
It was one wrote the music, the guitar player, but those lyrics are. I've had shitty couple of years for too many reasons for me to go into here, but life has been really, really tough for me.
Sure. I'm sorry.
And we're battling divorce and depressions and separations and deaths and whatnot. So
sure.
I Carry the Blame. I mean, this whole writing process, it was just, digging, since we decided on these things or emotions, it was so easy to kind of I just went into, how I felt during the breakup or during being left or whatever.
Yeah.
And entering a state of depression. And, when you're 25, you think of depression as those are just pussies, man. Just pull yourself up. But it's actually, it's a disease of the mind. It's chemical imbalance. And
for sure,
you're sick, man. You're sick. And so I Carry the Blame was really diving into that feeling and shutting out all feelings, numb in my cocoon. Because when you're in there, you don't want anybody to help you. And
that's it.
the devilish nature of that state, man. So yeah, for me, that's a very powerful track. Red River is about it's anger.
Anger. That's what I
And
thought.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So dealing with betrayal and thinking you could trust somebody. I thought I
Yeah.
knew you like you knew me. We sing in the pre-chorus.
Yeah.
And then what was a Mind Killer? Was it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that song is about fear and battling your fears, not letting your fears control you. And it's one of my probably my favorite chorus on all the album.
It is. It's a really catchy chorus.
Yeah, I
It's
love
cool.
it. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. For sure.
in so many words.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the orchestration as well throughout the entire album is absolutely beautiful. I know in the closing track, Elegy, I love the orchestration. The choir like vocals towards the end are really, really awesome as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Tommy wanted to try something different there. And then our
yeah,
keyboard player, Kirt, I think many times when I think of what makes us sound like us, of course, everybody does their thing and you can always tell a band by the singer. But I think really, our keyboard player deserves a lot more credit because I think it's really his layering and his keyboards have always been very present in our soundscape, if you will. I
sure,
remember
absolutely.
mixing Waiting in the Wings is like, wow, this is like Europe 1989. What are you guys doing? I'm like, we want it this way. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that too. And he's very patient when Tommy's being very detail oriented and difficult to work with. He's doing a great job, trying to make his way through that. So yeah, I mean,
Okay.
both of them are geniuses, and they did an amazing job with the end track. Sure.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, are you able to speak about what the next single might be?
Oh yeah, so it's not really a single per se. The record label wanted us to do a little playthrough, since again a lot of our fans are musicians.
Sure.
And I really wanted to do. I was looking to do Mind Killer.
Nice.
But I got my way with the video, the light, so I didn't want to push too much. And we wanted
gotcha.
something easier and a little bit noodling going on. So we're just going to do the happy track about love. So we're going to show Invincible to the people and just how we play.
Oh, very nice.
Simple playthrough thing going on. It's a 3.5 minute thing that I put together.
It's awesome.
When I was in love, which was fun. So
awesome. That's cool.
So that's what we're going to do. And it's going to be released when the album comes out.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. All right, great. Is there any closing thought you might have just about the album in general that you would share with the public?
Again, just that I think that this far into our career, it's fun to be so happy with the mix. Tommy has never been happier with any mix. I was there when we listened to the first, it was actually Mind Killer, which was the first song that was mixed.
Oh, wow.
And he's never been happier, and I feel the same way. We're not totally in agreement, all of us in the band, but I'm not going to out who it is. I am the most happy with it ever. The artwork is great, and the album turned out much better than I was. And it's also a much more personal thing than ever before. I'm not sure that means anything to anybody else, but it sure does to me. So it's just nice to say that. And also, I want to thank you, man, for it's always so much more fun to talk to somebody who's kind of did their homework. And
thanks.
Like, how the band get together.
Yeah, here we go again.
So thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. Like I said, I've been listening to you guys since, like I said, 2016, 2017. And I've really just been following all along, like since then. I've been looking into the past of the band, the history, leading up through the different albums. I've given the entire discography. I've been through probably at least 2 or 3 times. And I love every single album for what they are. And I think it's just great. It's an absolutely refreshing view on progressive metal.
Thank you so much, Ryan, man.
So to speak, yeah, absolutely. And then just lastly, I was wondering, what's the plan for tours coming up?
Right, so we're negotiating. We have a couple of big festival shows that we're going to do this fall, which is nice. Summer probably we missed that train kind of coming out with the album being released June 10th. But we have some shows for the fall that we're going to do, and we're trying to squeeze in some other shows around those festivals to make it worth getting Tommy over from Canada.
Yeah,
and then I think we can go on a longer run maybe after New Year's. So we're definitely going to go out there and play. We got such great feedback last tour we were on. It was the best time of my life. So can't wait to get out there again, man.
Are there any plans for like the eastern portion of the U.S., New York, New Jersey, anything like that?
You know what? That's my dream. That's my dream, man. I want to go down the I-95.
There you go.
Top to bottom. If there's any way of making that happen, rest assured that I will be the first one to jump aboard. And
that's awesome.
No plans today, but I hope there will be.
All right. Listen, Andreas Blomqvist from Seventh Wonder, I thank you again for all your time today. This has been absolutely great.
Thank you. Likewise.